Hello and welcome to another episode of DCU Daily. We are back and we have a lot to talk about as always. I'm back. It's been a while. I had to go take some time for myself and back on the show. It's good to be here. And there's been a lot going on. Of course, Joker Fall You Do had an early screening for the fans, and a lot of you guys went and saw that. We have a spoiler-free review of Joker Fall You Do from yesterday's show. So if you didn't get a chance to watch us live, then hey, go check that out. We do have that up. Liz was joining us on the show. Hopefully, she'll get to come back and join us again in the future. Of course, John and Liz had a fantastic conversation. We have got a ton of movie reviews coming your way, but those are curious later this week, including a spoiler review for Joker Fall You Do. The Penguin is moving on to episode 3 soon. Episode 2 was fantastic. That show just continues to get better. But today we have to talk about this news that James Gunn has officially greenlit a new animated movie for the Robins. And I don't know if this is going to be a DCU thing or not. We're going to get into that as well, of course, how it ties into the larger picture, whether it's a DC Studios Elseworld story or whether it's a DCU thing. But beyond that, we also had to talk about Superman. David Corenswet talking about how he had to pack on a ton of weight, a lot of muscle to be more exact, to play Superman. And a lot of his clothes didn't fit anymore. So we're going to talk about that. BITSIE Tulloch was talking about how Superman and Lois, was canceled, and the impact of that, and what she thinks about the idea that, or some people have said it's because they want to move on to a new Superman with David Corenswet next year. So did it have anything to do with Superman and Lois getting canceled? We're going to get into that as well. And of course, we have to talk about the word superhero itself, because the trademark used to belong to Marvel and DC, a joint trademark. It no longer does. What's the story behind that? John has some insight for us there. Speaking of John, of course, how are you doing today, John? Back on the show as always. How's your day then?
I'm good. I just got done with a personal live show. So now I'm back at it again with more live stuff. But yeah, let's so if I sound a little bit tired, if I sound a little bit like I'm not talking a lot, that might be why, because I was just talking for 2 hours straight. So I'm gonna grab some water because
Well, we have already got a bunch of you
so
guys in the chat. We got Jay, we got Michael. I'm gonna say hi to all of you guys in the chat. He's like, "Where are you at? We're here." Sorry about the delay a little bit. There's a lot of celebrities that have been passing away recently, and it's just celebrities make their ways into our lives through the movies and TV shows that we enjoy. Even sports, like whether it's Dikembe Mutombo or like earlier this year, Jerry West. There's Maggie Smith passed away recently. We were just kind of having a discussion, got sidetracked a little bit before we started the show. There's a number of names from today even who passed away. So it just seems, for whatever reason, when it rains it pours. So to the families of all those, John Amos, Chris Christopherson, John Ashton, of course Dame Maggie Smith, Dikembe Mutombo, Frank Fritz. Oh my God, I forgot that I used to watch American Pickers. Gavin Creel, to all of those fantastic people who spent so much of their lives entertaining us. Now moving on to the forever beyond, we wish their friends and families the best and keeping them in our thoughts and prayers. So with that in mind, of course, let's move on to our first story of the day, John. Superman star David Corenswet, he apparently packed on 230 pounds to play the Man of Steel,
nice.
and to the point that he said he didn't even fit into any of his pants. Is that any surprise to you? The fact that, because we to me, when you
I
look at
mean,
this
we've seen his
picture,
bulge. I would have assumed that he couldn't fit into his pants for another reason, but that's beside the point.
yeah,
So, but
like, I
like
mean,
honestly, like it makes sense because like I remember, of course, people like, of course, like many of the naysayers are like, this guy is fucking weakling little bitch next to Henry Cavill, all that shit. But it's
yeah.
like he hasn't bulked up, and then like fucking 6 months later, he did a fucking like gym selfie of him like
Hmm.
fucking yoked as hell, and it's like, yeah, that's what happens. Maybe it was roids, maybe it's not. Who knows? But like, bro, fucking packed on the weight for this one, and good for him. And uh, like he's trying to get into that Superman physique, and like, yeah. So it just, it's just awesome, and I hope that now people can shut the fuck up about it. because it's
Yeah,
just
it's
like,
like, well, think about it this way, right? Like you look at this picture that the first official image that was released a while ago, and we were like, oh, the suit is like it's kind of tight in some areas, it's kind of loose and all that, and I'm like, well, does that mean that he hasn't quite bulked up for the role? I mean, obviously he did because his own personal trainer posted a picture of what that looked like, and like holy cow, like okay, why is this thing asking me? Now that's Superman right there, and that's
hmm
him in the gym. So between the two pictures, you could tell that the guy definitely put in the work. He put in the work. Those are some boulder shoulders, and whether it's the chest, the core, it's all there. He certainly, yeah, 230 pounds is no joke.
no.
And it's no surprise that he couldn't fit into any of his pants anymore. And bulge and all, aside, I just think that when we're gonna see him in the movie, do you remember even in like BVS, like there were parts of the film where of course Henry Cavill is not wearing the Superman suit, but he's making fake eggs and a breakfast for Lois, right? That famous, those eggs look so fake because he's trying to flip them. Like either that or he's really good at making them sunny side up. But you could tell that he had the physique, and I think David Cornswet, you'll probably get a few scenes like that where he's just wearing a t-shirt and you're like, wow, yeah, you know what, it's kind of hard to hide the fact that either this guy really hits the gym hard every day or he's just built different. So, and in the case of Superman, he's just built different. But in reality, David Cornswet had to pack on a ton of weight to make this happen. It to me isn't a surprise, but of course, for any of the naysayers out there, the proof is in the pudding, and I can't wait to see what it looks like when the movie comes out. And hopefully David Cornswet can get into some of that wardrobe again, because as soon as the movie ended, he was like, I'm gonna shove a couple of brownies in my face and I'm gonna get back to being myself again, because I don't no longer have to worry about being like a 300-pound, one of the most jacked humans on this planet. Like he could be a normal person again. And that's the thing that I also
hmm
love about Derek Cornswet. He can really blend in the crowd. Like so many of those cast photos that we have seen, half the time I'm like, where is Superman? It's like a Superman cast photo, but I have to dig for where Derek Cornswet is in the picture because he's usually got a hat on and he's somewhere in the background. So he does a good job of blending in, which is perfect for what the character of Clark Kent is meant to be. So just somebody who's humble, who doesn't like to stick out of the crowd, but he does the right thing. And of course, he if he walks by you on the street, you wouldn't necessarily recognize him, and that's something
hmm
Henry Cavill had in spades as well. So it's nothing there that's
Yeah,
super
standing
unique.
below a picture of himself in Times Square with a Superman
And
shirt,
nobody.
and nobody stopped him.
Exactly. We also have Manolo in the chat, Hunter, Iggy. You guys are all here. So much fun. Caleb is in the chat.
You
By the
got
way, just
Josh,
saying,
honka honka. Hey,
honk.
Josh.
Oh, honka honka. Like, I can't do it. I can't do the voice right now, Josh. I would so desperately do it if I could. I know you
Yeah.
guys are all here for us to talk about what's going to be the dynamic duo movie. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that soon. Definitely will. But there are a couple other things we wanted to cover before we do get into that. So we were just talking about Superman and how Derek Cornswet, bulked up to 230 pounds. Now let's get into how Marvel and DC have lost a bit of weight, and in the form of the superhero trademark. They are no
Excellent segue.
longer
Excellent segue.
the thank you, I am very proud of that one. They're no longer the proud holders of the joint trademark, which I believe went all the way back to the 70s,
hmm
where they had this 1979 is when it was approved. So the word superhero was something that Marvel Comics and DC Comics had jointly trademarked. So if another entity wanted to kind of release a comic book, for example, or call their character as a superhero, they couldn't really do that unless they licensed the term or paid royalties to Marvel and DC. That is no longer the case. John, can you give us a reason and a little bit more insight, information on what happened here and why this might, in the long run, be a good thing?
Um. Yeah, I think like it, because the thing is, as somebody said, it was, you know, it was it was just so general that it's just like, why would you need to why would you need to? It's just like it's so generic. It's like I remember like Marvel was trying to like copyright the word zombie for so long, and it was like it just feels kind of dumb. It just feels like you're stretching your power way far beyond that point, and it's just like what no other people could use superhero like and like it kind of reminds me how like although at least it makes sense for Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead, at least that makes sense, like there was no zombie media or literature in that world, so it makes sense why the word zombie wouldn't be used. But even outside of that, like it's still like you can't use the word superhero without fucking going to DC and yeah, it's dumb. I'm glad this happened. It was stupid. Yeah, we need to have a little bit freedom with that in that regard of this trademark because it's very dumb, very dumb.
Yeah, it ultimately what ended up happening was to kind of summarize this. There was another entity. I think it's something that like Super Babies is that's what I sort of read. Basically, the challenge was issued by Scott Richhold of Super Babies Limited, and they were saying that the term superhero, as well as like the terms superhero, like whether it's 2 words or 1 word, or super dash hero, all the different iterations of it, they're too generic, like you said, John, that they shouldn't. That by DC and Marvel holding the trademark, they're basically holding the whole genre hostage. They shouldn't claim ownership over an entire genre. There should be room for other entities to make their own and then stories and franchises and tell those stories without having to worry about Marvel and DC's trademark. And basically the copyright office said, hey, you know what, we're going to cancel the trademark on these grounds, and no longer is the word superhero trademarked. It is in the public domain, which is, I think, is a win for all storytellers. Like if you want to write a comic book, then you can call your main characters superheroes, and of course to celebrate their victory, Iconic Art Studios basically recreated the House of M moment, the no more no, not mutants, no more superheroes trademark. And then they were like, now rise all these other comic books with superheroes in them that are not just Marvel and DC. I think it's fantastic. It's great news that the term superheroes is now in the public domain. This isn't one of those things that's a sexy piece of news. I'm like, most people are like, who cares? It's like, there's a lot of fan fiction out there that is doing that already. But yeah, it's something worth looking into, and something to be aware of if you were a fan of the genre, as we all are. So I think it's really cool that now if you wanted to write your own comic book and you called one of your characters a superhero, that Marvel and DC wouldn't give you a cease and desist letter saying, hey, you can't do that. Like, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Now, of course, John, one other thing that we won't have to worry about anymore starting next year is Superman and Lois, because Superman and Lois is about to come to an end. And recently, BITSIE TULLOCH was on the Katie Sackhoff show. This is the Sackhoff show starring Katie Sackhoff, of course, or as it says, with host Katie Sackhoff, who you might remember from famously Battlestar Galactica. But
I was going to say Halloween Resurrection, but even she barely remembers being in that movie.
Yeah,
I remember she watched it on her channel, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't remember like half this movie."
Exactly,
but Paul Rudd didn't even remember the name of the Halloween movie he was in, so it's just like it just goes to show how bad these movies are sometimes.
Well, yeah, look, at the end of the day, Katie Sackhoff, big star in the world of sci-fi, whether it's Battlestar Galactica or The Mandalorian or anything. She's done a ton of other projects. She's been in high-profile projects. She's been in indie movies, TV shows. She has her own podcast. BITSIE TULLOCH was on this podcast recently, as you can see here, and she was asked about, well, what's going on with the end of Superman and Lois? Like, do you think that they chose to cancel the show because there's a new Superman movie on the way? Do you trust James Gunn's vision and all of that? And to kind of summarize what she said is like, hey, look, it is what it is. It's come to an end. She had a hard time with the idea that it was coming to an end. There were some news items in this that when I listened to, I was like, we didn't know this. So she mentioned that there was initially a pitch that this show was going to run for like 7 seasons. So it was a surprise that this next season, is it the 4th or the 5th season? I forget if it is the 4th. So, in the 4th season, they're coming to an end, which clearly, cuts them short by 2 or 3 seasons at least. And not only that, but they also cut down from, what was it, like 10 or 13 series regulars to 3 for this year. David, not David Cornsweet, Tyler Hoechlin, the Superman from Superman and Lois, of course, he directed one of the episodes himself, and she mentioned also that whereas the show used to get like 2 weeks to film one episode, this time around they sometimes had like 8 or 9 days or something. That basically something to the effect of, roughly half or a little more than half the time to film some of these episodes, which
Mhm.
is, basically telling you, hey, you've got less money and less time and try to deliver the same quality. And fortunately, it looks like they made it happen. But it goes to show again, that Warner Brothers is trying to wrap out of this, and not only because they don't necessarily want to have anything moving forward with Superman on TV to confuse with the movie that's coming out, but BITSIE TULLOCH also implied
Which
that
makes
they're
no
doing.
fucking sense
I
considering we're
mean,
getting Matt Reeves as the Batman and Andy Muschietti's Brave and the Bold. So, like, whatever. Anyway, sorry.
yeah, well, I mean, but the other thing is that she mentioned that there's a new ownership at the CW.
But
Nexstar
that's
owns
more
them
so
now,
the point
right?
to be made.
So exactly, like she said, like that's really more the reason why, because they're moving away from DC programming in general. That's why all the other Arrowverse stuff was canceled and wrapped up. And of course, she also mentioned with David Zaslav and then James Gunn and Peter Safran coming in. She mentioned that she has personally met and knows both Safran and Gunn, and she trusts their vision. So she's got the best at heart, wishes at heart for all of those guys and what they're doing with the new Superman movie. And of course, they've done their very best to wrap up the show and kind of give the fans a satisfying conclusion to Superman and Lois. But also, she mentioned that right after, fortunately for her, because she was having a hard time with the show coming to an end and sort of like not being able to work with this family of characters. So after the wrap party, she booked another indie movie and was able to basically quickly kind of pivot away, and so it kind of helped her to not have to kind of sit with the hurt that she was feeling from the show coming to an end, and of course being there for the final season.
Right.
And Katie Sackhoff is like, well, I just can't deal with that. So like I don't even go to wrap parties. I just kind of like wrap up and go to bed early and then fly out the next day and go on to my next project, which I understand. Like, people deal with, those kind of, because, painful situations in their own ways. Well, I personally have a hard time just watching the finale of any TV show that I really love, because I'm like, well, that's the last new episode I'm ever going to watch. I don't know, John. Like that's
Mhm.
something that where everybody has a different way of going about this. How do you feel about the final season of Superman and Lois, and some of the comments that BITSIE TULLOCH made here? I think just in general, it feels like she's at a place of acceptance, and she's going to look forward to seeing how everybody else watches and enjoys the final season of the show.
I think I'm glad it's ending before it gets fucking stupid. Like that's like even though I think in this interview she says that the plan was 7 seasons, which like fine, great, but like I think like we've seen like with all the other Arrowverse shows, they like fucking 7 no. How many did Arrow do? Arrow went 8, Flash went 9, Legend of Tomorrow, I fucking lost count. Supergirl went like 6. It's just like they went past their shark jumping moments and they just became terrible after a while. So we've gotten 3 banger seasons. It looks like we're getting another really good season and we're ending it on a high note. So I'm kind of weirdly glad that all this happened, like with the CW getting owned mostly by Nexstar now, and then like the possibility we have we didn't want the same we didn't want a 2 different Superman, and like I don't think that was the case, but if it is, then like fine, whatever, because it's like now this can end on a really good note. um that can end on a really good note, and that's what I hope for with a lot of these shows. Like Stargirl is like prime example. That had, I will say, even though season 1 was the best season, Stargirl had fucking 3 amazing fucking seasons, and that just hit all the right ways perfectly, and that was 3 seasons, only 3 seasons, And even a buddy of mine, he loved that show as much as I did, and he's like, the series finale and the last like 10 minutes of the series finale has got to be the best 10 minutes of any DC project ever. Like, so it's saying a lot, because it's like sometimes you just have a great show. Don't let I would say, like, if you have a show, don't I would say 3 to 5 seasons is probably the best. 6 to 7 is okay, but pushing it, 8 seasons and beyond is way too much. 8 seasons, like, no matter how the show, unless you're like a soap opera where you've been going for 40 years, rarely is
Or you're like a Law and Order, SVU.
SVU or something like a show that can be like, like easily repetition, like, like cable TV and that kind of thing. But if we're talking about like a long form storytelling point of view, I feel like, but even episodic stuff like Star Trek and shit like that, that usually, I mean, to be fair, they had 3 prime seasons, but like, I just think when it comes to TV shows, unless you have a plan for like 10 seasons, then you shouldn't go beyond like 5, maybe 6. It's just like, I just think it's too much, and that's what a lot of these shows kind of did, and that's what a lot of Arrowverse shows did. So I'm glad that this is ending after 4. I know a lot of people are upset, but it's like, good, you're upset. That means the show is still good. If they're ending the show and you're like, thank fucking God they're ending the show, then that's not good, because they've sucked for so long. Like, people are now clamoring for fucking Simpsons and Family Guy to just stick a fucking bullet in their ear and fucking end these goddamn shows, because they're just so bad nowadays. That's not good, because they're bad. People are upset because this is good. This is great. This is still like the best modern Superman we've gotten. So it's like, good. You're upset because that means they'll still deliver something great. And I'm happy about that. End it where it's good, rather than go past its shark jumping moment and end it when it's shit. So, you know what? I'm happy about that. And I'm glad that this show, you know, this show got like a good ending. They were ready for the ending. They weren't like told 2 weeks before, like, oh yeah, this is the last episode you're ever going to shoot, so good luck. So they actually told them, and as Caleb just said, they were anticipating. So yeah, if that was the case, then good on Todd Helbing, I think his name was, the showrunner. But yeah, so don't cry that it's ending, be happy that it happened, or whatever the hell the quote is. So, that's how it is. I'm happy it's ending, because that means we're going to get 4 seasons of greatness, then 15 seasons of shit. So, good. I'm happy.
Yeah, I know. By the way, you guys are saying in the chat, The Simpsons just ended. They sort of were trying to fake you out. It was set up as that premiere episode was set up as a series finale, but then by the end of the episode, they're like, oh no, there's more to come. But it was interesting. It was very meta the way they approached it. It was very, very interesting for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think you guys are making some really good points about where the CW is going as a network and why it doesn't make any sense from their perspective to keep this show going. It's also really cool that Akash pointed out, like, yes, Smallville wasn't technically a part of the Arrowverse, although I guess if you were talking about Crisis of Infinite Earths, sort of looped it in. And if you count it as all one big entity, then it is very, cool to see that, yes, what started with Smallville as, DC on the CW ends with, Superman and Lois. So again, Superman sort of started it all. Superman is closing out the shop, and now Superman will start the DCU over in the cinematic side of things. So yeah, and then Josh saying, I love the Superman and Lois suit. Yeah, I think the suit looks fantastic. I think and then Ron agrees with him. The suit was, to me, the logo was a little smaller and the proportions could have been a little more mature. I think what I see with like the Henry Cavill suit, or even with like the Christopher Reeve suit, like the logo looks a little more better proportioned. But the Tyler Hoechlin suit, it's sort of a nice halfway point between everything that's come before and since, where it's giving you the classic S. It's also giving you the shape. It's giving you the color scheme that's sort of between the Henry Cavill suit and the, like the Christopher Reeve, Brendan Routh suit. It's a mix of all these elements, right? And even if you look at some of those outlines on the suit, like those lines and accents, they're sort of even harkening a little bit to what we're going to get with David Corenswet. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, the suit was good. It got better as the seasons went on, and we got some really good storytelling. I think if you look back at the CW and its track record with DC programming and DC shows, is going to be good to remember that it came to an end with Superman and Lois, and then a lot of those other characters, like Tom Cavanaugh, who was a staple of the Arrowverse as part of the Flash, and then Legends of Tomorrow, and all those other things. As what was his name, Doctor Harrison Wells, was it?
Yeah.
He's going to be coming back. I mean, I'm playing a different character, but directing an episode. So we are getting some of that crew returning this season to sort of like help kind of wrap up all the stories. I'm excited to see that this show go out on a high note. Now, of course, you guys are all here to talk about the new movie that James Gunn has greenlit. That sort of kind of came out of nowhere, that none of us were aware of. It's the second crossover news that we have gotten out of the DC Studios in a week's time, but it's definitely worth talking about. But before we do that, of course, if you guys haven't already, hit that like button. If you're watching, hit that like button. We do appreciate that. That helps us out a lot. Josh saying it's not dark and gritty and violent. No, yeah, I mean, yes. Superman Lois is dark and gritty and violent sometimes, but it's also light and very heartfelt at times. So it's got a nice mix of all the elements. But yes, the Watcher saying, I'm glad we are past the no trunks era, though. I feel like all the personality and color is gone from the suit with no trunks. Yeah, I mean, it depends on. I thought that what they did with Man of Steel was great. I like the Man of Steel suit. I don't think they did a good job of adapting that design aesthetic with the new 52 and some of the other iterations. But personally, I thought for the Man of Steel suit, it worked. I know John and I don't agree on that, but we'll leave
I don't
it at
hate
that.
the Man. I will say, okay, I will say
Yeah.
we agree on the BVS suit. The BVS suit's better than the Man of Steel
Yeah.
suit. I will die on that hill because I love the gold and the crimson of the logo, and the colors pop more instead of the Justice League suit where you could see like the shoulder, the padding for the muscles, and it's like a different color, and it doesn't work and it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think personally, I think out of all the suits, the BVS suit is definitely the best. It's just the Man of Steel suit is too muted for me, although I like the material. I think that was kind of a cool way of doing it. I just prefer the BVS suit. I thought that was a better suit overall.
Yeah, fair enough. That's fair. Now, of course, we can continue the debate on the Superman suits all day long, and we'll have plenty of more opportunities to do that because, of course, Superman is coming out next year. But before we do, let's kind of focus our attention a little more on the dynamic duo news, right? Usually when we think of dynamic duos, we're thinking about Batman and Robin, not two Robins. But after getting the news that DC is working on a Bane and Deathstroke crossover movie, which you've got some really cool comments from you guys, and we'll get into those in future episodes as well. Today, we've got some news from James Gunn himself. It's rare that when we get a lot of these news of late, things are being broken by one of like Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, The Wrap, like those, industry trade magazines, or it's coming, from somebody else, not the man himself, James Gunn. But James Gunn decided that he was going to break the news, which means that not only is it greenlit, but it might already be well on its way to being developed. This new, animated movie. It's he said in his own words on Threads. I mean, I think if you found James Gunn's, or if you follow him on Instagram or Twitter, you'll see this as well. He mentioned he's over the moon excited to announce the newest DC Studios Warner Brothers Pictures animation greenlit film. The key term being greenlit, as James Gunn has mentioned. Nothing is greenlit till the scripts are approved, and we only give release dates for movies that have been greenlit. So this is now a film that is greenlit for theaters, dynamic duo, the story of Robin, or should I, as he's like, or should I say, ROBINS, as in Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, the first feature film from the visionary Swaybox, a mix of animation, puppetry, and CGI, a script from the wonderfully talented Matt Aldrich, produced with our partners at Matt Reeves, Sixth, and Idaho. So Matt Reeves is involved in this. And according to James Gunn, this is something special. The artwork that they put out looks interesting. I mean, it doesn't give away much. It's just a bunch of logos with it looks like, the Gotham City skyline in the background, which looks
Mm-hmm.
like maybe they just pulled an image out of the Batman marketing and then just kind of like blurred it a little bit. What I will say though, and this is something I found out on DC Film News, they do a great job of covering all the DC news as well. They went and looked up some stuff from Swaybox Studios, who developed a technology that they were calling Momo animation, and it's a cross between CGI animation, stop motion, and live action real time performance. Meaning, like, they've got people in these like mocap suits that they're capturing their performance, and they're sort of mixing the different elements together. And you can see here an example from, is this I don't know if it's the Iron Giant or what this project is,
Yeah,
but
but it's from the Iron Giant. Yeah.
yeah, so when you look at the animation on the left, and then when you look at the look of it on the right, it looks like that new dynamic duo movie is going to feel a little more like what you see on the right side of the image. What are your thoughts on this, John? What are your thoughts on the news of dynamic duo? How do you think this is going to fit into the greater picture over at DC? This is also the first project under the new Warner Brothers Pictures animation, which was recently, it was gutted, it was refit, they combined a bunch of things. There's a new head of that studio, and now this is the first time that newly minted, or that newly refreshed, however you want to say it, Warner Brothers Pictures Animation Group is collaborating with DC Studios. So of course, like, Warner Brothers Animation is responsible for like Justice League Unlimited, the Justice League animated series, the Batman the animated series, all of Batman Beyond, that Superman the animated series. Now this newly refreshed version of the studio is collaborating with the new DC Studios on a Robins movie, and it's an origin story. It looks like, the two of them.
I think it'll be cool. Yeah.
That's all you're like, that's it? That's all you got?
I don't know. I like the animation there. That looked kind of like, that looked really interesting. I mean, the hands look kind of like somebody, broke their wrist, and now their hands are like ballooned to like 12 times the size. But outside of that, it looks like interesting animation. It kind of reminds me of like a bit of like a Henry Selick movie a little bit. So I think like I kind of like that vibe. But it like looks like kind of, but it's CGI, but it's like kind of got that stop motion feel, and I like that. That looks really cool. I hope they really like make that work. I hope they get the right people for it. And Matt Aldrich, he wrote Coco. So that's a damn good movie. He hasn't really written anything else of note, but hopefully he can bring it. Just like, Dick just starts playing the guitar, and he's just like, "Hey, remember me," and then everyone starts crying. No, but
I don't think that's
anyway,
gonna
here's
happen.
Wonderwall. But I just think, yeah, this could be something interesting. I know Lenny is probably upset at this news, because she's probably like, "Why is there not more Supergirl news?" Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But I can. It just feels like, all right, you guys are greenlighting a lot of projects. Can we focus on the ones that you're like currently working on right now? That would be great. Like, you got Bane X Deathstroke, you got Dynamic Duo, you got all this shit. It would be nice if you can, focus on Superman and Lanterns. I know we've gotten a bunch of like news stories about those, but it's like, I would say like focus on those, because James Gunn seems like the guy. He's like, okay, let's focus on like, directors' visions, and focus on these projects that like that, and like we're not greenlighting stuff until we get a script. Like, he's into that vein, but it seems like we're just kind of keep getting projects about this, and it's just like, okay, let's focus on the stuff we have nothing about, but that was announced years ago, like Waller, or Paradise Lost, or Booster Gold, or Swamp Thing, The Authority, Brave and the Bold. I'd like to hear more about those, please. We haven't gotten anything in regards to those, and I'd like to hear more about that than, oh, we're getting a team up Batman Merc villain story and then a Robin story. I'm sure they'll be really good and I'm sure it'll be interesting, but I don't know, just like focus on the stuff that you you already greenlit already. So
Yeah. Well, the one thing we know for sure that this is not connected to the Batman epic
no,
crime
figured
saga at
that.
all. Um, it seems like this. So you guys have been asking, is this part of the DCU? If you read the article, and which, by the way, James Gunn also is promoting on his social media. So this looks like it's got James Gunn's blessing. Is everything in this article is as true as it can be. It's got some quotes from Matt Reeves himself, of course, saying that I have wanted to make a film with Arthur and Swaybox for many years, and for that film to be dynamic duo and an incredibly special and unique Batman and Robin story for families is a dream. Of course, one of the executive producers is Michael Osland, who's done like basically every Batman movie over the last couple of decades, including the entire Dark Knight trilogy he was a part of. So as far as the people behind the scenes, you've got a lot of the usual suspects. It's being billed as a long form storytelling that is as visually breathtaking, dynamically expressive, and more human with the animation style that they have got, the Momo animation that Swaybox is known for. Um, and as far as how it ties into anything else, this just looks like it's its own standalone Elseworlds project, if you want to call it that. Like what we're gonna see here is not going to connect really to anything else in the DCU. It's not going to be a part of the Joker universe, the Batman universe, or what Superman is going to introduce to us next year. It's just going to be its own thing, and I'm kind of okay with that. It's an animated project. It does kind of run counter to the whole everything is going to be a part of this larger cinematic universe, whether it's a game or an animation or. But it seems like there's at least committing to the idea of more Elseworlds projects. And as far as Warner Brothers Pictures Animation, if you remember, John, when they first sort of shut that division down to kind of reorganize it, we were like, hey, they're canceling the animation projects left and right. Now this is an example where the new studio, the new version of that studio is doing something different, and it's a DC project. DC has been a big part of Warner Brothers animation portfolio for years. So and it doesn't look like it's going to be the League of Super Pets. So as long as it's something that's worth a watch, and if it's closer to the Spider-Verse than it is to League of Super Pets, then I'm into it. The Watcher saying he loved the gorgeous animation style. It looks fantastic. And the Watcher also saying it's neither DCU or Reeves. It was reported on Culture Crave on Twitter. Exactly. It's pretty much its own standalone thing. It's not really something that belongs with anything else that's already pre-existing, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, Akash, you were also asking earlier, is it going to be in the DCU? No, it is not going to be the DCU. But maybe this gives us hope that something like Batman Beyond can be made soon too. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
But also then, Josh saying, love the fact that the DCU is spreading through multiple medias. This is awesome. Yeah, exactly. It's good that we're getting to see multiple iterations of these characters, because we will get a Robin. Might even get multiple Robins in the live action DCU.
I mean, if the Penguin can get a Robin, anybody can get a Robin.
Yeah, exactly. I love the name of the episode from a couple of days ago. It was like How I Met Your Penguin, which was great callback to How I Met Your Mother. It's fun. It's fun. They're having fun over there, and it looks like when James Gunn said that Matt Reeves is going to be a big part of our storytelling, DCU and otherwise. Of course, with the Batman epic crime saga that he's working on. They weren't, joking around, because Matt Reeves is now working on the Penguin, the Batman Part 2. He's part of that, what am I? The one on Prime, the
Cape Crusader.
Batman Cape Crusader, and of course now he's got his, hands in dynamic duo as well. So yeah, it looks like the Warner Brothers and DC Studios is firmly in the business of Matt Reeves, and if this is the next project that they've got up and running, I'm okay with that. What do you think, John, about the release date for this? Now that it's greenlit and we know it's on the way, Do you feel like this is a project that is going to be coming our way 2026,
I would say
2027?
2026 or 2027.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Like again, I feel like even though this is animation and James Gunn isn't really a part of that, but it is DC Studios, so I would say giving them time to actually make it look good. I think they would be getting really get it in there. I would say wait for 2027. That's allegedly when Across Spider-Verse or Beyond the Spider-Verse Part 2, whatever the fuck it's called, is allegedly supposed to be coming out, but who knows when that actually is going to be coming out. So yeah, so I give them time, give them all the time they need. 2027, I think that would be good. So do that. Fucking do that. Do it. 2027.
I'm ready for a Kahneman King movie. There's also like a bunch of other stuff that James Gunn has hinted at over the last few months that we don't really have any news about yet. So it is just it's fun to see that they've got like more stuff in the making. And I think as far as Swamp Thing, Brave and the Bold, Brewster Gold, those are all projects that are being worked on in the background. We just don't have much information on them publicly. Right. The Watcher also pointing out again that they've got that Jurassic League project going still that John you're looking forward to. Yeah, yeah, Jurassic League.
Why'd you make me remember that?
Blame the Watcher. He was making a list.
Don't get me started on that.
Your response to this is very Jurassic in nature. Yeah, come on, man, cheer up. It sounds so cool. It's is it
blow my nose.
Well, there's of course that Blue Beetle animated movie. There is the Dead Man project. We've got a Wonder Woman video game, right? That's coming out. So yeah, I mean, there's a ton of. I mean, is there an animated Wonder Woman project too, Watcher?
Yeah, Joker 2 is good. Fuck off. Why are you saying it's not? Fuck you. It was good. It was great. It was better than the first one. So fuck off. I'm just going to say that.
A couple of you guys in the chat were asking, are you guys worried? Ron was asking, are you guys worried that Joker since is getting bad reviews? It's here's the thing. The first Joker had a 69% Rotten Tomatoes score, and the current Joker 2 has got a Rotten Tomatoes score of
64.
64. Yeah, 64. So it's not too far off the mark. I'm okay with that. I mean, that's not too bad. Maybe it will go up over time. It's also something that it will be more influenced.
I don't
by
give
the
a fuck about
reviews.
I don't of like critics because like they're all fucking stupid anyway. I liked it. That's all that fucking matters. Okay, I liked it. I enjoyed it. If people are getting uppity over it, I really couldn't care less because I liked it. So whatever. People can bitch and whine all they fucking want. The critics
by the way,
can
the
bitch
score
and whine.
has dropped to 59% as of today because they added like 9 more reviews. So it's going to be interesting because look, the first 69% is not a terribly high score, and that movie made $1 billion. Clearly, if people love the film, it's going to do well. I mean, they're doing this for the money. They're not doing this because they want to. I mean, yes, they won an Oscar in the last movie, and they still did that with a 69% Rotten Tomatoes score. So if this movie can do the same or something similar, then they'll be fine with that. And we're not giving away the ending yet, but if you guys missed our review yesterday, it was a spoiler-free review. The ending of this movie, may make it difficult to see where the story goes from here. But of course, we will get into all the spoiler talk later this week. So, be sure to join us for that. We want to give you guys a bit of time just to go check out the movie. Josh saying Joker 2 sucked.
Well, Josh, you suck. So how about that?
And then Caleb correcting us that it's not a Blue Beetle animated movie. It's a Blue Beetle animated series, which is I mean, I'm all for that. I'm into it. Maybe that's where we get a Booster Gold introduction. Maybe that's how we get into that world. It'll be fun to see how that all works out. Uh, but yeah, I mean, hey, the dynamic duo movie. I do wonder though, is this gonna be like really made for kids, or do you think this is aimed at more of a like a family audience? Like you can watch it no matter what age you are. Or do you think this is like the League of
I
Super
think it's
Pets
like
kind
gonna
of
be
thing?
like a family
Yeah.
thing. I think it'll be like kind of like in that vein. Makes the most sense.
So with that said,
Maybe
how do you,
even like maybe like teenagers, because I feel like that's like right up their alley. It's like it's sort of like that vibe of like, it's like it's not about Batman, but it's not about Robin. It's like in between. So I feel like a good teenage audience would be good. Not like in an overly edgy sort of way, but like just like I think teens might really connect with that.
yeah, and then my question to you, John, would be if it's an origin story for these Robins, what does that mean? Like what is that gonna look like? What's because Jason Todd and Dick Grayson are inherently tied to Batman and Bruce Wayne. Can you make this movie without a Bruce Wayne or a Batman in there? And then or
Yeah, I
like
think
how is
so.
that gonna work?
I
Like
mean, they've
how do they
made
become
like
Robins without
spin-offs
Batman?
before without Batman. Like you had the Super Sons movie that was really good. And that had Superboy and Robin in it, and that was damn good. So, I would say do that. Like something like that. Like cuz that's like again like kind of like an all ages thing. So,
So but still like I'm
I would say
wondering
it's
like
the best, but that's just me in terms of
I
the
thought Man of
comment.
Steel was still probably the best, but that's probably something Josh doesn't agree with either. I did want to ask though again, John, like if it's an origin story, what's how do you care to guess how these two characters meet? If they're both Robins, then it's kind of like one of those things where Robin is a sidekick because he's the sidekick to Batman. How would that work here without a Batman? Or do you think they're gonna have a Batman, but he's sort of got like more of a tertiary, like a background role where he pops in at the beginning, and then these guys kind of do their own thing? How is that gonna work? What is the story of this movie gonna be exactly? And if, is it how is it gonna stand on its own two legs?
I think what it might be is a like I don't think it's gonna be like an origin like of both Robins because that just wouldn't make sense. I feel like it'll be like kind of like early years of Nightwing and Red Hood, like them finally like. I think it'll be like maybe like Dick just becomes Nightwing, and then maybe recently like Red Hood got resurrected, and then he became Red Hood. Maybe they'll do something like that. I think like what they mean by an origin story, I don't think they're gonna actually tell the origin story. Maybe in like flashbacks or like at the beginning, like a quick montage of like this is what the origin of the Robins are, but we'll get to the movie, we'll get to the part where they're Nightwing and Red Hood because it just feels like um so I feel like it just wouldn't make sense that it's about two Robins becoming it just doesn't make sense to me. So I feel like this will be about Nightwing, the friendship of Nightwing and Red Hood and them teaming up and becoming like friends because it's like that was the whole thing with like Jason Todd fucking died. He got, Superboy Prime punch time, and then like Red Hood got resurrected, and then he became evil, and then he became an anti-hero, and then there was a whole rigmarole with that. So I feel like what they might do is like he's been Red Hood for a while, and then maybe like he's like been like kind of a villain, but then maybe being with Nightwing, he'll like be like more of a hero or anti-hero, depending on how you word it. So I think they'll go for something like that. It'll be the origin of the two of them teaming up rather than the origin of them becoming heroes in general or them becoming the next hero they become, like first Robin. It won't be about them becoming Robins. It won't be them about Nightwing and Red Hood. It'll be about them, the origin of them teaming up. I just feel like that makes sense.
Okay. All right. So I mean, oh, Caleb suggesting living together in okay, in an orphanage. The Cape Crusader did set up Dick Grayson and Jason Todd being foster brothers. Yeah, that could work.
Maybe.
I could see that. I could see that. No, it's yeah. It's just to me, it's as a as somebody who's not read as many comics as you have, John, and to the
I
average
haven't even read
moviegoer.
that many, to be
No, but
fair.
I'm just saying to the average moviegoer, like, how do you pitch and sell this movie? Oh yeah, it's the origin story of two sidekicks. Like, okay, so no Batman then, right? Like, it's like even in the League of Super Pets, they had Batman in there a little bit, and a little bit of Superman, because their super pets, are go together with the superheroes that they're the super pets for. So it's like, how do you tell that story? Or like, what they did in Gotham Knights, like Batman dies, or like in the Gotham TV show, there's Batman shows up but in like plain clothes a few times. It's like there's been other projects, but obviously we're doing a Penguin show now where we're not going to see Bruce Wayne or the Batman. So I guess, and you know what, they're doing a fantastic job. So I guess it is possible to do a story like this. And I'm looking forward to seeing again just how maybe this spawns another Elseworlds franchise. Do you think this has a potential to become like a Spider-Verse-esque level of success for DC, or do you think this is more just going to be a one and done?
I think this will be a one and done. I can't, like, maybe like they'll make it like a series. It's like they'll focus on then Tim Drake, and then they'll focus on Stephanie Brown, and then like maybe other parts of the Bat family. That could be like a good like side, like sort of franchise of like, it's a series of movies about Bat family members. I could see that working, but not like just the two of them, because there's enough. Like, we want to see so many Bat family members. Like, fuck it, give me a goddamn Bluebird movie. I know, like, nobody fucking gives a shit about Bluebird, but honestly, like, if you want to like keep the Batman train flowing, but like characters we haven't seen before, like, give us that. Like, I want to see Cassandra Cain done fucking right. Like, please. I wouldn't mind seeing a spoiler movie. Give us Batgirl. Give us like an actual Batgirl movie, and then and don't fucking cancel it immediately. And then yeah, and then Nightwing, Red Hood, whatever the fuck Tim Drake is called, because he changes his fucking name every other week. It's Red Robin, sometimes it's Drake, which makes no sense. And then like just Signal. I'll even take a Signal movie. Like, there's so a good Catwoman movie. Like, I'll take anything. Like, in regards to the Bat family, not a Harley Quinn movie, because fuck Harley Quinn, and she's not part of the Bat family. So don't even. I know what you're gonna do, you trolls in the goddamn comments. You're gonna say that shit, but no, no. But yeah,
Well,
I would say. But in terms of other real
yeah.
Bat family members, yeah,
But then how do you think this affects like the Robins we're gonna get in the movie, like the DCU? Do you think this means that because they are focusing on the Robins, particularly Jason Todd and Dick Grayson in this dynamic duo film, that's gonna be its own thing? Does that mean we're set to kind of not see them so much in the DCU? Because of course we're gonna have Damian Wayne. And that's how this sort of, because here's the thing, yeah, you can have 5 Batman projects and maybe 2 Superman, 3 Superman projects going on at the same time, because those characters have enough of a presence and cultural awareness that people can differentiate the different things. I would imagine it's harder to do that with a character like Robin, because people are gonna be like, whoa, wait, so we just saw a Robin thing. Why are there so many Robins? Does the world really need so many Robins? It's too confusing. What do you say to that? Like, do you think this means there's going to be less of Jason Todd and Dick Grayson in the DCU, or is this just something they're doing on the side that is a
I think
fascinating
it's just
idea as a
something they're doing on
potential
the
duo?
side. I don't think
Yeah,
they're gonna be like, oh, now you can't use them. Um, I don't think. I think this will just be a way of like showcasing these characters finally, because God knows we have wanted to see more of them for a while. So I think we're showcasing that, but then they'll show up maybe in a not in a live action movie separately if this isn't canon to the DCU. So I think they would go for that aspect.
yeah,
I don't think they're gonna like close it off.
that's fair. That's fair. Well, I mean, I'm excited to see what becomes of this new film. Oh, there's the wrong article. Yeah, the Robin's origin story dynamic duo is now in the works with DC Studios, Warner Brothers Pictures Animation, and Matt Reeves' Sixth and Idaho. Behind the Batman epic crime saga, The Penguin, The Batman Part Two. And yeah, it's gonna be a movie that's gonna have a combination of CGI, a little bit of like mocap work, as well as some stop motion. It's an interesting mix. Like the look of it when you see it in the Iron Giant from Swaybox Studios, it looks great because it looks more human than traditional animation. It's got a lot of detail to it. It's sort of 3D, but it's also not your traditional Pixar animation style. It's also not that Spider-Verse animation. It's something in the middle. It's another creative expression and an animation style that is unique and singular. So to me, that hopefully means that we're going to get something very interesting, both from the creative standpoint, but also from a storytelling standpoint. Dynamic Duo. James Gunn has announced this. It's the latest project that is going into production over at DC Studios. And remember, guys, we still have a bunch of other projects. We do have the Batman Part 2 starting to film next year. Supergirl is going to start filming next year. Lanterns is going to start filming next year, where it looks like Aaron Pierre and Stephen James, was it, are the two finalists for that Jon Stewart role. We know that we've already got Kyle Chandler as our Hal Jordan. Of course, Peacemaker has already been filming its new season, so that's almost done. Superman is in post-production. We've got another season of Batman Cape Crusader already recording. And of course, beyond that, you've got Harley Quinn coming out with this next season later this year. And you got, even more so, with this Waller or whatever's happening with Swamp Thing. But there's a lot in production. It's good to see that there's multiple movies, there's multiple TV series, and now we got these new projects. There's a Teen Titans script being worked on. We're going to be eating good for DC for a while. It's good to see all these various projects. And yeah, Hunter Eggy, exactly like you said, this movie is not set in the James Gunn DCU universe or the Matt Reeves Batman universe. It's its own thing. So yeah, I'm excited to see it. Caleb's got some ideas. He's like, I'm calling it. Batman has to go in business for a few days. Jason Todd is the main Robin. Dick Grayson comes back from college and they temporarily fight side by side with both as Robin. It would work, except this is their origin story. So I don't know if that means this is the origin stories of becoming Robin, or more so their origin story as working as Robins together. Maybe that has something to do with it.
I don't know how they're gonna make origin story work, but I hope it works because it sounds like a neat idea. So
yeah, I mean, Josh, so many universes. I mean, I'm okay with it. Like, why not? Like, these could be their own. And besides, I think these days we call them universes, but back in the day they just call them like movies and TV shows, right? Like, not everything needs to have its own universe. If it expands into something more than a single project, that's great. It doesn't have to. Yeah. Oh, and the Watcher saying that Swaybox has like their website and has a demo reel of their animation technology. It even looks better than what we are seeing here on social media. So yeah, I'd love to. We're gonna get into that more as we get more news about that duo. And it looks like Swaybox's animation style, the Momo animation, is going to be on display with this project, and hopefully we'll get it in 2026, maybe 2027. It takes a couple of years for movies like this to happen. I'm looking forward to it. John, is this a project that you're gonna go check out when it comes out in theaters? Because it's not gonna be a straight to streaming movie. Is there another animated like movie in development for DC right now? I know we've got a couple of TV series, but I don't believe
I don't
there's a
know.
ton
I
of
can't
animation.
think of anything.
Right.
There's nothing in like current development that we've heard of in a while. So, except for like Watchmen Chapter 2, but that's not theatrical. So, I don't know. Can't really think of anything.
Yeah, Caleb also saying the movie ends with Jason Todd being kidnapped and murdered by the Joker. Batman comes back too late to save him. Dick vows to avenge his death and becomes Nightwing. It would work if it had a larger story they wanted to tell, but I don't know if that would be pretty dark if they did do that whole
Yeah,
Joker
that would be awesome. I'd love that because hell yeah, dark shit. Let's go.
Yeah, and the Watcher saying, look, the original creator of Robin was inspired more by the character of Robin Hood for the name Robin, not the bird Robin. So it makes sense that it could be something where they're basically two people living two kids living in an orphanage, and sort of they have a lot in common. So yeah, that would be fun. That would be interesting. Yeah. Okay, Caleb is just trying to get you ticked off again, John. He's like, Jurassic League movie. That's the other one that's in development. That is correct.
Well, we haven't heard about that in a while, to be fair, like ignoring my hatred for it. We haven't heard it. We heard that initial announcement and then that was it. Like we didn't hear anything outside of that. So I don't know if that's still being developed.
Yeah. Well,
We'll see.
hopefully it's on the way. Because I would go to see it just so that we can review it here and see John's reaction while we talk about the movie. It would be fun. It would definitely be a lot of fun. Well, I mean, hey, that's the big news of the day. Of course, we also talked about how BITSIE TULLOCH has been processing the end of Superman and Lois and her thoughts on why the show is coming to an end now, whether it's because James Gunn's DCU it needs to give way to another Superman with David Corenswet in the new DCU that James Gunn's working on, or if it's just the CW moving on with the new slate of programming and just changing tact. She had some kind words there for the future of the DCU. She trusts the process. I think we all trust the process, minus this friendly neighborhood Snyder troll, who we appreciate nonetheless. Dynamic Duo is going to be hopefully a fun project. We've got lots more to talk about later this week, John. There's, I'm sure, going to be more news from the world of Lanterns. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe Aaron Pierre, he's one of the two people that is, in the running now. Maybe he will become Jon Stewart. Maybe it will be Aaron Pierre and then Kyle Chandler. I think that could work. That dynamic could work. I'm okay with that. I wouldn't mind that at all. And of course, the Joker Fall You Do comes out in a couple of days. Go out there and see it if you didn't get a chance to see the early IMAX screening. It's going to be out in theaters everywhere on Thursday. So Joker Fall You Do, we did a spoiler-free review yesterday on DCU Daily, and then later this week we're going to do a full spoiler review, and we're going to have Liz back on the show. John's going to be here. We're going to review it. We're going to be reviewing again The Wild Robot. We're going to review Megalopolis. We've been sitting on those reviews for a while, but we're going to get on top of that. Angelina's going to be back on the show, and tomorrow we'll be back with another episode of DCU Daily with the latest from the world of DC and all things DCU, as well as all the Elseworld stories. We're going to look ahead to what we want to see from the Penguin episode 3. We have already seen How I Met Your Penguin. I wonder what the third episode is going to be called. Any more callbacks to past projects?
The Penguin of Wall Street. I don't know.
Penguin of Wall Street.
That's the only Christian Milioti movie I can think of.
The Watcher is rooting for Aaron Pierre. We are too. We are all rooting for Aaron Pierre. I think he's a great fit.
I would say Megalopolis isn't so bad. It's good. I would just say it's good.
Yeah.
Just saying. By the way, Josh.
I mean, the Watcher also saying this. By the way, that the Deathstroke Bane film could actually be a Secret Six movie. I don't know. Like,
yeah, people were saying that yesterday. Ever since we dropped it, it was like Secret Six, and I'm like, maybe that could be interesting.
That would be, yeah. I mean, hey, they would beat Sony to it, and they've been trying to make a Sinister.
They've been trying to take a Sinister Six movie for years with Drew Goddard attached, and it's like, guys, just make a goddamn Sinister Six movie, but they don't know what they're doing. It's okay. We hate them anyway.
Yeah. Hey, Lenny's in the chat. Lenny says, "Welcome back, Dan." Thank you, Lenny, for welcoming back. Yes. Thank you. She's mentioning glad to see me well. Yes. It's been a long week or so, but I'm happy to be back. And we'll be here. We'll be here all week as we always are. Josh is like, Joker 2 sucks. Bye.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe if you give it a second watch, it might be it might hit you different. Who knows? I tell you one thing, like watching a movie in IMAX sometimes makes me cranky because especially if I'm sitting there for 2 hours in those seats, like I need something a little more comfortable. But yeah, hey, DC cooking, love to see it. We're all in the same boat there. We love it. Thanks so much, Lenny, for stepping back in, and thanks for your kind words for everybody. We have been here for a long time. We'll be here for a long time to come. So much more to come from the world of the DCU, from DC in general. DC Studios getting involved in animation, getting a bunch of TV series on the way. I can't wait to see what that video game, the Wonder Woman video game, comes out, and maybe even we get some news about Paradise Lost. That's one of my most anticipated series that is yet to have any news. So, yeah, that Paradise is lost, but
I mean, don't worry. I have way more dice. It's okay. Look, I have this big sack of dice. Don't worry. Even if your pair of dice are lost, I have this dice right here. Don't worry. We're good. We're good. We got all the dice. Yeah, I have I don't play RPGs anymore. I want to, but I have my buddy gave me all his fucking dice, and I'm like, I don't have, I can't, I don't. What am I gonna do with this? He's like, I don't know. Here, I don't want this. I'm like, all right. So I have lots of dice.
Yeah.
Like, all right, sure. I wanted to show off my dice collection.
Dude, the Watcher, you and I are on the same page. I also need a Wonder Woman video game update. Maybe New York Comic Con is when we're gonna get that. That New York Comic Con is now like 2 weeks away. Like James Gunn is gonna be there. He's gonna get questions. So I hope that we get to find that out. But yeah, I mean, we haven't had any new updates on the Wonder Woman video game since they announced it. So, but usually that's how things happen. Oh yeah, Lenny's like, are we wrapping up? I mean, Lenny, we can stick around for a couple of minutes. We were talking about so many different things. I mean, what do you guys want to talk about? We'll maybe give it a couple of minutes. Dynamic Duo was the big news of the day. We talked about that for a while. So, you can be kind and rewind if you want to check out that conversation. But yeah, I mean, Supergirl, Lenny, we don't have any news on Supergirl yet, other than the casting information. Matthias Schoenaerts. He's gonna play Krem of the Yellow Hill. That's gonna be interesting. No news on Lobo. No news on the new Waller TV series. I wonder if they're
we just
Waller
to get you excited, Lenny. We just were talking about like other because we were talking about how because I mentioned this because you mentioned this a couple times on some other streams how you were upset that we aren't getting any news on like the stuff that's greenlit and I agree. Like we should be getting more stuff on the stuff that's actually greenlit, like Superman, like and the stuff that was like announced like years ago. Yet they announced pretty much back to back 2 more projects in the woodwork for little reason, like because like the Bane X Deathstroke movie and now the Dynamic Duo movie. Now, am I excited for both? Yeah, I'm cautious but excited. But it's just like, hey, let's focus on like Waller or Paradise Lost or Brewster Gold or even other stuff like Swamp Thing, Raven the Bold, The Authority, stuff that was announced years ago, but we haven't gotten anything. So can you focus on that stuff, please? Thank you. Am I excited? Sure. But like, give us the stuff that we've been waiting for like a year, 2 years. When was this announced? 2022? I don't know. But it just like give us, please, just like give us more like of stuff that we've been sitting on, and now you're giving us like and Teen Titans, technically Teen Titans as well. So we got to add that to the list. So it's just like, all right, like come on, give us stuff that we,
Yeah, I wonder what's going on with the Authority movie. That I think is going to be very interesting. Lenny asking about that. What's going on with that project? Has James? I don't think James Gunn has lost focus. I will say this: a lot of these things are happening in the background. We just haven't gotten news about it. We know James Gunn is very good about not letting things leak the way they used to. The DC brand used to leak like a sieve at Warner Brothers. So we would get every idea that everybody pitched, whether it was a Margot Robbie, pitched 5 different Harley Quinn projects, or Ezra Miller wanted his own version of the Flash movie. Like a lot of those things like are normal at studios. We just don't hear about them very much because there's a million different ideas being pitched in the hallways of these studios every day. It doesn't mean all of them are going to become projects that we're going to be watching anytime soon. It just now it seems like we're on a track where we only get news when it's relevant, and they're doing a good job of keeping tight-lipped about projects that are not quite green-lit yet, because you don't want to do is you don't want to give out information like, hey, Marshall Ali is going to be Blade, and then 5 years later nothing has happened with that project, and you've let go of 5 different directors and you're on the verge of canceling it. So I think
or
James
you
Gunn
announce an entire slate
that.
2 different times, and over half of those movies are never made. Thanks, Warner Brothers.
Yes, that was well, I think we're past that point now, and what's good to hear is that James Gunn has got a control over all this flow of information. Does that mean that he's lost focus? I don't think so. I mean, that Batman Aztec movie just sounds cool to me. Caleb, talking about that in the chat. Ancient Aztec Batman who gets power from the Aztec Bat God. That is a very unique take on the character that I would love to watch. I love,
I think that has been an Elseworld. I think that was an Elseworld comic, if I remember.
Yeah, and they're turning that into a movie basically, so it would be great. Oh, and then the Watcher saying that it's rumored that the Deathstroke Bane film takes place in between Brave and the Bold and Teen Titans. That would be interesting. That would be interesting. I would love to see how that ties into the larger universe, right? Like, because
Oh yeah.
we haven't gotten a ton. We so far have not gotten a ton of announcements from the new DCU where they're villain-focused projects. Because Swamp Thing is technically not a villain. Maybe he's an anti-hero at best. Um, Peacemaker, I suppose, is a villain or an anti-hero, depending on how you look at him, based on the first season of the show. Pretty much everything else that they announced was for a superhero or for side characters like Waller. So for a Bane times Deathstroke movie, that's very similar to like what they're doing with the Joker. So or like what Sony's doing with all their, Morbius and Kraven the Hunter and all that stuff, or Venom. I would be interested in seeing how they approach it. I want to see again with a weird twist in the timeline, whether it's between the Brave and the Bold and Teen Titans. Teen Titans has not been does not even have a greenlit script yet. So for all we know, that Teen Titans movie doesn't even happen. And while the Brave and the Bold has been announced and we have a director attached, we don't have it's not officially greenlit, right? That's the tricky part. The Brave and the Bold is not officially greenlit, even though it has a director attached to it. We don't know who's writing the movie so much, or if there is a writer, their script has not been given the green light from James Gunn and Peter Safran. So, as James Gunn likes to say, until a project is greenlit, it doesn't matter. Like, things unless it's greenlit, there's no guarantee it's going to happen. So Supergirl got the green light. Lantern's got the green light. We know Superman is already done filming and it's in post production. Will we get the same treatment? Because Bane and Deathstroke, remember, while James Gunn announced the Dynamic Duo project, he did not give us any official updates on Bane and Deathstroke. That's not something that's coming from James Gunn. It's coming from reliable sources, yes, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen for sure. We don't know. So I know we're getting ahead of it ourselves a little bit by saying, that it's going to happen, and it could, and it should. I would love to see it, but it doesn't have to. Not unless it's got a greenlit script. The Watcher saying, I think Gunn is just having fun. He loves what he does, and it's easy to get stuff done when you're having fun, and Gunn enjoys his work. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, essentially, Gunn can show us the crime wonderworld of DCU with this film. That would be fun to see. Although, I don't know, people are getting a lot of that with the Penguin and with the Batman Epic Crime Saga. So do you really want to duplicate that? It's kind of like two flavors of the same thing, unless you give us a very different take on it. Like, like from the perspective of two orphans who grew up to be these vigilantes helping out the people of Gotham. Welcome, Lex, in the chat. Hello, Lex. Thanks for joining us. He found out that Superman and Lois season 4, the poster of Superman is actually a completely different suit. Yes, they are updating the suit for the final season. I have heard of that. And I'm sure like his suit got ripped to shreds by
Doomsday.
By Doomsday. So it's gonna need some work. Yeah, and then Lenny, you know what? Why are we hearing about these new projects? We're hearing about these new projects because James Gunn had always said there's projects in the works that they did not announce at that large slate reveal a couple of years ago because they were either going to be spoilers or things they didn't want to quite give away because they might not have been like they probably thought, okay, this is a work in progress, but we're not 100% sure what's going to happen. So if we announce it, people are going to have an expectation that it's going to happen, and so they don't want to disappoint us with announcing something that may or may not actually become a movie, a TV show, animated or otherwise. So yeah. Now, with that said, Lenny, I did want to give you a quick rundown of the stuff you missed. Lex, you joined us late. So we started out talking about how David Corenswet bulked up to 230 pounds, looking like probably one of the most jacked dudes on the planet to play Superman, to the point that he didn't even fit into any of his pants. And we were talking about how, hey, we always were wondering how his suit isn't quite form-fitting and it looks a little loose. John was talking about how, his bulge, clearly he couldn't even fit into a Superman suit.
I don't know.
And you look at,
I just fed into that, so
yeah. Well, so it makes sense that he bulked up a lot for the role, and he's now finally getting to kind of bulk down a little bit. He can eat his normal diet. He doesn't have to consume a ton of protein every day. He doesn't have to be in the gym for like half the day or probably more than half the day. He looked jacked for the movie. Now he can be a normal human being. We also talked about Marvel and DC losing the superhero trademark and how the term superhero is now in the public domain. So if you write a comic book and you want to call those characters superheroes, you can do that and without having to worry about Marvel and DC coming after you. That I think is for the better. And then, of course, we were talking about BITSIE TULLOCH and her thoughts on Superman and Lois coming to an end. And
Yep.
she trusts James Gunn and Peter Safran and what they're doing at DC Studios. And she understands that that show coming to an end probably has more to do with the CW getting new owners and them having a different vision for the future of the network that does not involve so much work with DC and their projects. But it's fun to see that Superman with Smallville really started the run of TV shows over at the CW, and now that run of DC on CW is coming to an end with another Superman project with Superman and Lois. So it's just fun to see that, and I'm excited to see what the final season of Superman and Lois is going to look like, all the fantastic stories they're going to tell. Even though there's fewer stories this season than before, I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with. And of course, the big story of the day was dynamic duo that we've been talking about with Jason Todd, Dick Grayson in animated form, coming up in a new DC Studios and Warner Brothers Pictures animation, cross collaboration, if you want to call it that, a crossover collaboration. Swaybox Studios is going to be, primarily animating the movie, and their signature Momo animation style, which you see on the right of this image, is what's basically what that movie is going to look like. We think it's going
Maybe
to
a
come out
little
in
bit more clean
2026.
cut and maybe
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a little bit better, obviously, because
a
it's
little
just
more
a small
polished. This is
demo
more of
reel.
a demo reel. There's a bigger demo reel. If you look up Swaybox Studios website, one of you guys mentioned they have a bigger demo reel where you can see even more examples of this animation style, because it's a mix between CGI, stop motion, and then real live action mocap performance. So like what they do for Avatar, and kind of like all of those elements mixed together. So it's an interesting take on animation, and it's something unique and different, and I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, those are the various pieces of news for the day. James Gunn, in a rare move, announcing this himself. A lot of times we get these new project announcements. Of late, it seems like it's coming from a third party source, whether it's Deadline.com, The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, or The Wrap. This one is from James Gunn. This is from the horse's mouth. So Dynamic Duo is coming out soon. It's going to be an origin story. It's going to be animated. I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully we'll get more news about Teen Titans. Hopefully we'll get more news about Supergirl. But John, it's been another great episode of DCU Daily. Lenny, to answer your question, Dynamic Duo is an Elseworlds project. It's not part of the DCU. It's not part of Matt Reeves' Batman universe. It's not part of the Joker universe. Even though Matt Reeves is involved as an executive producer on this, this is going to be a completely standalone project. So yeah, and the Watcher saying the DC Prime Underworld will have Freezeman, Bat Solo, Solomon Grundy, et cetera, that Reeves won't have. So that would be very different, more fantastical. Yes, it would be fun to see some of these more fantastical characters get their own projects outside of the DCU, especially because they're not going to get them in the Batman universe. So hopefully there'll be villains in this movie that they could, make a little more over the top that can work well in animation that won't necessarily work in live action. So yeah, and thank you, Lenny, for your kind words as always. Thank you to the Watcher. You are watching, we are watching you, you're watching us, we're all watching each other. Thank you, Lex.
Who watches the Watchmen?
Who watches the Watcher? That is the question. That's always the question. Thank you to Manolo, to Miraculous, to Caleb, to Josh, to everybody, to Fiona in the chat. Josh, we love the honka honka. Please do not ever stop doing that.
Although, just stop with your shitty ass fucking takes. I think I can live without those.
Jurassic League, we are excited for that too. Of course, Mommy Sleepy, we have you in the chat. Goosey's Dump G663. I love that username. Did I miss anybody? We had Michael earlier. Ron, you're in the chat. I'd love to see you guys. Jay, nice to see you live. Thank you so much, guys, for stopping by. We're going to be back tomorrow with another episode of DCU Daily. We are also reviewing a ton of movies this week on the show on the channel with the Wild Robot. We've got Joker Folia Do, a spoiler review coming out later this week. A spoiler-free review is already on the channel from yesterday's show. And of course, we're also going to review Megalopolis and the latest from the world of Hollywood. Any news? We're going to get into some Marvel news as well. Agatha All Along continuing on with this season run, which people are liking. Rings of Power is coming up, I think, halfway through its season, more than halfway through its season at this point. So we've got lots going on in the world of film and television. We here at DCU Daily will be back with more news from James Gunn, from whichever corner of DC, whether it's Matt Reeves, James Gunn, Joker Folia Do, The Batman Part 2, or maybe we'll get another brand new project. It seems like these days DC's just announcing new projects
Cranking them out.
that they're just
Cranking
coming
them
out
out.
of left field. Maybe there will be a new Condiment King movie coming our way. And if it is, then we'll bring that news to you. So we'll see you tomorrow, another episode of DCU Daily. John, thank you so much. As always, it's good to be back, and I look forward to being back the rest of the week. Like and subscribe as always, and hit the notification bell if you haven't already, so you know when we go live with another new episode. And until tomorrow, guys, go out there, watch something DC related, and then come back and talk to us about it. And we'll do the same tomorrow on DCU Daily.